Imagine reaching the peak of your career, business, or ministry while also being a missionary, making disciples for Jesus around the world. What would that mean to you? A life fulfilled in both purpose and mission is truly worth pursuing. On the Mission Spotlight podcast, we share experiences, encounters, and inspiring stories of individuals who are thriving in their lives while faithfully fulfilling the Great Commission. Become a model, yet a missionary with Mission Spotlight. Join us on the 25th of August as we premiere our first episode. Follow us on our Facebook page and also subscribe to our YouTube channel at Christian Mandates Organization International. And here we are. Welcome to the first episode of Mission Spotlight. So, help me welcome this beautiful lady. Can't you see how beautiful she looks? I'm so excited to have you here, ma. You're welcome. Please come and meet you.
Yes, my name is Chioma Gottslov. I am a graduate of the University of Nigeria, Soka.
Okay, awesome. So please tell us, what do you do?
I am a Texas.
Please, what does that mean?
Yeah, so I am actually a web developer.
Okay.
I am also a copywriter. I am also an entrepreneur.
Okay.
And currently I'm a fashion designer.
Woo! Yeah. Awesome. That's beautiful. I'm so glad that the person we are putting a spotlight on this first episode is not just a web developer. She's also a fashionista. She's also a copywriter. My God. And yet she's a missionary. That's amazing. Nice to have you here, ma.
Thank you so much.
Let's go down to this. Tell me, ma, when did you become a missionary? I mean, like, what inspired you to be a missionary?
Okay, so growing up in a clergy home, my dad was actually a pastor.
Nice.
So growing up in a clergy home, I saw my dad go for evangelism. I mean, every Sunday, and then sometimes during the week, he just organizes some of the members and then he takes us along. I mean, it wasn't really difficult for us to go because he's not asking whether you want to go or not. You just have to go for evangelism.
I can relate.
So you just have to go for evangelism, right? Yeah, you if you don't go, you get punished. So yeah, that was actually how I started. But then, of course, at a point you have to leave home, you have to go away, and you have to be independent and free. And
yeah, exactly.
So I would say that being in that kind of growing up in that kind of a home actually made it easier for me to make up my mind, because I've never gone for missions growing up. I just go for evangelism. So yeah. So but then it made it easier for me to actually join a mission group in school when I got into school. So if you ask me what inspired me to become a missionary, I would say that first it was my dad, right? Or who inspired me.
Dad, thank you.
So it was actually him, because he would always emphasize on the importance of evangelism, even though I didn't understand what he was saying. And even though at first I didn't see it as a necessity, I was seeing it as a punishment, right? My dad actually inspired me, even though I didn't have a grounded knowledge of what it was all about, but we would just for fun dress up and follow him to evangelism.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I'm not excited for fathers like this. Thank you so much. We appreciate that. Now that we know what inspired you to be a missionary, can you please tell us what made you stay a missionary? Because one thing to be inspired, just go and go. But the act of staying has to have lots more in it than just being inspired to go. So what made you stay a missionary, even after you entered school, right? Away from your father?
Alright, so what made me stay a missionary was actually the fact, well, I would be very honest.
Okay.
So I got into school and I met the loveliest family ever. Right. So in my first year, I got introduced to Christian Mandates organizations.
Nice.
So it was actually very easy for me. I'm actually the kind of person that wouldn't want to come outside. I would prefer to stay indoors, right?
Are you an introvert watching this? Meet your spec. Okay.
So, but when I got into school,
yeah,
and I got introduced into Christian Mandates organization, I stayed because I met people, young people like me. This was no longer, it was no longer the case of my father and myself, elders in church, and then also doing evangelism. So now it was actually me and people of my age grade, my age group, my young people as young as 16, 17. I knew that I had people that I was older than them that were also missionaries, and I would watch them preach. I was so excited. What made me stay initially a missionary was that apart from my dad, I got inspired that there are other young people like me that could actually go out for days, stay in villages for days and preach the gospel.
Oh, awesome. That's beautiful. Now, at first, you said it was because your dad said you should dress up and then follow to go for missions. And then when you entered school, it was now about you meeting some persons that of your same age, and then you're seeing them going for mission. You're like, man, this is where we need to be, right? So it means that at first, it's not more of a revelational thing for you, but something that what you saw inspired you.
Yes.
But I'm going to ask quickly right now, is you going out for missions, is it a revelational thing for you right now? And when did that change? When did that change from just you being inspired by people you see and the things that happen around you to it being a revelational thing?
Okay, so yeah, at first it wasn't actually about the revelation. It wasn't knowledge either.
Okay.
Like I said earlier, I mentioned earlier, it was just being a pastor's child. You have to do these things. Just like you have to go in church early, you have to go and sweep the church and all that. So it was actually a pastor's daughter thing for me. And then initially it wasn't revelation. And then eventually when I got into school, like I said, in first year I got introduced into Christian-minded organization. And then I started getting teachings. I started listening to teachings on, of course, a mission organization is actually going to teach you on missions, even though they teach every other aspect of life. But then that was the core message. So I would sit down, I would listen, I would ask questions, and yeah, the revelation, it finally dawned on me that more than this is just something that we do because we don't want to get punished, or something that we do because we are from a Christian background. It should be a lifestyle because this is purpose.
Yeah.
So first it wasn't clear. It wasn't about revelation. It was just to avoid punishment, because if my dad looks for you during evangelism and 10 comes back, when you get home you are going to get beaten of your life, and pastors can beat. But eventually when I listened to I got into school and I joined Christian-minded organization, that was when I knew that for no reason it wasn't just about missions now, right? It wasn't just evangelism is not something that you do when we go for missions, short-term missions. That wherever you are, you have to evangelize, you have to preach the gospel. So the first time I heard that people go to classrooms just during school hours, go to classrooms to preach and all that, was in TMO. That you could actually enter a theater, a whole faculty theater, and preach Jesus. Right? And not just that I heard it, I heard people come back to say they did it. So it actually dawned on me that more than this is just something that we grew up doing. This is purpose. This is a life.
Beautiful. Amazing. This life. It's getting emotional, ain't it? Okay, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. So now I realize that earlier you told us that you are a developer, a fashion designer, and a copywriter, and many other things that you mentioned. Now I want to know, and yet you're still a missionary, right? You go for missions. You've graduated from the University of Nigeria, so now you're still a missionary. Wow, that's beautiful. Now, how do you think that believers out there who are in different spheres of influence, that are entrepreneurs, that are business people, that web developers, tech people, how do you think they can still fit in and still be a missionary, going into the world and still preach the gospel? How do you think they can do that?
Okay, thank you, Ma. So it starts with the revelation that every believer is called to be a missionary.
Okay.
By this I mean every believer is called to go into the world and preach the gospel.
One of the key instructions that started when Jesus was giving this great commission to everybody and every Christian is go ye. It's that go ye that brought about the word missions, right? So maybe you don't see the word missions in the Bible, but the word go ye symbolizes that you have to leave where you are to somewhere else. It could be.
So the sole purpose of a believer is actually in winning souls and bringing men into the kingdom. Just like Jesus said in Mark chapter 16 when he was talking to his disciples. You read 15 down, said and these signs shall follow them that believe in him, we shall cast out demons. Now before then he said, go into the world and preach the gospel to every person. Just like in Acts chapter 1 verse 8 where Jesus said, and you shall receive power after that the Holy Ghost will come upon you, and you shall be my witnesses from Judea to Samaria to the uttermost part of the earth. Now he wasn't actually saying if you can, if you're less busy, go. So once a believer understands that soul winning is the sole purpose of a believer, he makes out time for soul winning, he makes out time for missions. And because this is not there are short-term missions and there are long-term missions. We are not talking about the one that you go and stay for 7 years, 10 years, 20 years. So I mean, if you're so busy that if you are a believer and you are a busy believer, you are a busy believer in every other circular sphere of life, right? And then, if you understand that soul winning, that mission is God's call, every believer, it is His call. We receive the ministry of reconciliation. This is our ministry. Ministry is actually what you do, what you give your whole life, you devote your whole life to do. So when we understand that we have received, that we are ministers of the new covenant, of the gospel of Jesus, you make our time. Right? So no matter how busy you are, nobody is busy for 24 hours in a day. Nobody is. So even if you're working for a company, there are times for leave. So you can actually plan yourself to use your leave for missions. You can just decide that, okay, this 1 week, this 5 days, I will just go to a particular place, probably join an organization, a missions organization, and go for missions and preach. And the point is, if a believer understands that this is ministry,
this is life.
This is life. He makes out time for it. Even the Bible says that where a man's heart is his treasure. So for me personally, one of the things I treasure so much is my time. So if my heart is in missions, I give my time to it. So yes. So I think every believer that is doing whatever they are doing can always make out time for missions. For missions, always. So even if in a particular time or at a particular time you're not able to go, there is no how that in 3 months you won't have time to make out 3 days, to create 3 days out of your schedule to just go for evangelism.
Beautiful. She treasures her time, and so if she gives her time to missions, it means that's where her life is. That's where the entirety of our peoples is. This is so beautiful. Thank you so much, Ma, for your time. Wait a minute. I hope you learned so many things today. I mean, you learned something about short-term missions. You learned something about creating out time for something that is your life purpose. It's not just one of the things that is said in the scripture. This is like a command. It's something God has said. This is what you need to do. This is what gives your life a meaning. This is what gives your life a meaning. So it needs to be your life purpose. Thank you so much for your time today. We appreciate it.
Merci beaucoup, ma.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad it was your time today. So one of the things you're going to do for me is in the comment section, we have questions, things you want to really hear from us after now. Please put them down in the comment section and we'll make sure we attend to them. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye. Love you. Bye-bye.